Silver Spring, and she has also been very active in the local food markets. What are they called? The co-op kind of CSA. Pardon? CSA. CSA, yes. Community. You all know there. Devora Kimelman-Block.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Devora Kimelman-Block, and I own KOL Foods, which provides kosher, sustainable, grass-fed beef, lamb, chicken, turkey, and duck delivered to people's homes, and also for events and Hillel, which are food dining services in colleges. Judaism, like many religions, has an intricate practice relating to food. Despite the common misconception that kosher food is food that's blessed by a rabbi, or food that was developed as a way, or that kashrut was developed as a way to prevent disease. Kashrut has its origins in biblical holiness codes, which seek to separate realms of life and death and give honor to the source of all our food. For example, scholars believe that the classic separation of milk and meat derives from a desire to separate life from death. Milk being the symbol of life, and meat being the symbol of death. While many of the particulars of kashrut are unique to Judaism, they are rooted in our near universal understanding that what we eat and the way we eat matters, not just for health reasons, but also for spiritual reasons. I, like many Jews grown up in America, was taught that kosher food is special, that kosher slaughter is performed in a way to minimize pain to the animal, that when you keep kosher, you are upholding an ancient and ethical spiritual tradition. So it came as quite a shock 3 years ago when a raid at the biggest kosher meat supplier in America, and the world actually, agri-processors in Woodsville, Iowa, found exploited and illegal workers, animal welfare violations, and other unethical practices. We saw how sausage was actually being made, and it was not pretty. It didn't look holy at all. It looked exactly like every other industrial meat system in America. Although the agri-processors scandal was a watershed for raising consciousness for the Jewish community and the American community about some of the issues with industrial meat production, a counter trend had already been underway for a couple of years. For example, at a retreat center a Jewish retreat center in Connecticut, there was established a 6-month fellowship to teach organic farming to college young Jews. And graduates from that program began building their own Jewishly rooted organic farms and other projects across the country. Hazon, known for its bike rides to raise money for environmental causes, proclaimed itself the home of the new Jewish food movement and began holding annual conferences on Judaism and contemporary food issues. The first conference had 200 people. Within 3 years, they had 600 people, and a movement was afoot. Part of that movement was linking congregations with CSAs, community-supported agriculture, which is basically you buy a share of the annual produce of a local farmer. But these CSAs were linked to synagogues, so they were not only drop-off points, but also educational opportunities around sustainable farming. I organized one at my local synagogue. The conversation at those conferences began to ask the question, since the word kosher is actually defined by fit for consumption, that's the definition of the word kosher, how should we think of what kosher means today? Is it sufficient for the food to be prepared only in accordance with traditional guidelines, or should we have a stricter definition of what is kosher? For example, if my eggs have no blood spots, and so they are not fertilized, which is one of the requirements of kashrut. But my chickens were raised in an industrial hen house where they never see the light of day, where their feet never touch soil, and where they're treated like cogs in a machine. Should those eggs be considered kosher? Should kosher also contain in it the ethics around treatment of live animals? Because traditionally, kosher starts with the slaughter. You know, should it also have to do with how they are treated while they're living? How about the treatment of workers? What about environmental degradation brought on by the industrial meat production? Should food that is an expression of holiness demonstrate a healthy relationship between humans and nature? As I mentioned earlier, I organized a CSA. And while we were on a trip to my CSA farm in PG County, we had to herd a flock of turkeys from one field to another. And I thought, well, how hard could it be to get these turkeys kosher slaughtered? This launched me into a whole quest to master the laws and conventions of the Sustainable Food Movement, of the USDA, of the kosher supervision world, and to see if there could be any possible overlap. The industrialization of kosher meat producers, and thereby kosher certification agencies, has made it nearly impossible to produce non-industrial, sustainable kosher meat. However, 3 years later, I now am able to do so, and I have, like I said before, 100% grass-fed, sustainable beef, lamb, chicken, turkey, and duck. 1 second, let me go grab something. Right, I've had to make some compromises. I know that this session is specifically looking at local issues. There are less than 10 kosher slaughterhouses in the country. So living 1 day's drive from where your meat is raised and slaughtered is an ideal that is unattainable for most of the Jewish population. However, we have been successful in circumventing the kosher factory farm meat system in raising consciousness about sustainable food issues in the Jewish community, and perhaps most importantly, making people treasure their meat again. Thank you very much.